Cousin, I want to play the lottery.
No, you can't play the lottery.
I want to play the lottery.
Balki, the chances of winning the lottery are astronomical.
Well, if it's good enough for our space program, it's good enough for me.
I just wanted to let you know about my study group.
Oh, don't be a fuddy-duddy. I'll be your study buddy.
I'm about to embark on one of the great challenges of my scientific career.
This work right here is going to change history.
I think this is going to be our greatest mission.
I don't have time to study. I'll never get into Stanford.
I got big plans for you tonight. I got maps, I got charts. I'm going to see you through this because my credibility is on the line.
It's at this point that you'll want to start taking the notes.
Welcome to the Sitcom Study, the podcast where we contemplate the TV shows we grew up with and search for the truth and wisdom within the tropes and cliches. And Amy, what, may I ask, is the trope we're talking about tonight?
Jay, I have some very exciting news for you. This is the winning ticket.
Yes.
We won the lottery.
Winning the lottery. That is the subject at hand. Yeah, this was one where there weren't as many options as we sometimes get, but there definitely were a lot of sitcoms that did this. And we talk about, well, is this one that comes from real life? Is this one that's more like Strange and TV land? I feel like this is one where the lottery makes more sense in sitcoms than it does in real life.
That's because you are like one character in every one of our episodes. You are a negative Nelly about the lottery.
Would you anticipate my quoting Mr. What's his name? Larry. Mr. Larry.
Cousin Larry.
Cousin Larry from Perfect Strangers, who says, the lottery is a scam invented by the state to con people who were absent the day they handed out brains.
And when Larry said this in the episode, I turned to Jay and I said, he's you.
Yeah, but we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. I'll ask you, what is your experience with or opinion about the lottery?
I think it's kind of harmless fun. You know, I'm a little bit on your side of things where it's like, I don't feel like people should just spend all of their money. You know, like if you are struggling to pay your bills, maybe don't put, $20 a week on the numbers, but can't throw stones. So do what you want. But yeah, I feel like I understand why there are some people who are super negative about it. And we can leave that part at that. But I do kind of think in terms of, for most people, it's kind of harmless fun. The one thing that sort of sticks in my craw about the lottery, and it kind of touches on something that a lot of the negative characters say throughout these episodes, but it's about the connection with the state and the way the state raises money.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Florida, as we talked about before, and there wasn't a lottery in Florida. Like a lot of places in the South, that was like, gambling was a no-go for a really long time after it became kind of okay in other places around the country. And when states started bringing it in, it was all because we're going to help the children. 100% of the proceeds are going to go towards public schools. And it was great because it was this huge pot of money that was all going to be earmarked for the schools. And they said, and we will not decrease the funding to the schools, no matter how much money the lottery makes. And then every single year after the law passed for the lottery to be allowed, they decreased school funding and said, oh, it's okay. They still have more than they did before we did that. And within 10 years, basically the lottery was funding the schools and the state was no longer truly funding the schools. So yeah, I feel like that in terms of a con from the state is 100% accurate.
Yeah, that it's done by the state is wild. In New York State, where I grew up, most forms of gambling were illegal. And yet the New York State Lotto was not only legal, but aggressively advertised. You had all of these advertising campaigns. The one that was, hey, you never know. And, there was, my dad was always incensed by this one commercial that showed like an umpire making a call in a ball game, and then like a guy, like the lottery winner went out on the field and like got him to change the call or something. And like, it was a joke, but my dad was so offended at the notion of like fair play being undermined by winning the lottery. Look, a lot of my anti-lottery sentiment comes from, in my heavy drinking days, I would go to the liquor store and have to stand behind some schmo that was taking, 15 minutes giving their lottery numbers to the liquor store guy, or having their scratch-offs redeemed or whatever, So obviously I wasn't one to talk because I was there for my own dumb vice. But you did see a lot of people that looked pretty down on their luck and, looked like they probably didn't have a ton of money to spare, spending tons of money on this lottery crap and scratch-offs and everything. And look, I make lots of dumb decisions. I am not one to cast dispersions, or maybe I am, but I shouldn't, I don't have any high ground to cast dispersions from, but it really does seem like you're getting people to act against their own interests by this lottery stuff.
The fabulous thing about you, one of the things that I love about you, we're going to get all mushy here, is that truthfully, so many of the people in our episodes, there was always like one person in each episode who was like, well, if I win, I'm going to give it to charity. You're the person who would actually do that because you do like your life and you do have that feeling of like, oh, I shouldn't have all of this. Like, we should split this, And so I think if either of us were to play the lottery, you should be the one to actually play because you do good things with the money. Whereas I'd be like, yes, I'm keeping it all. I'm going to buy property.
It's a moot point because I wouldn't play in the first place. All right. What are our shows? What did we watch?
We watched Perfect Strangers, Season 4, Episode 1, The Lottery, Mama's Family, Season 5, Episode 15, The Big Wheel, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Season 3, Episode 14, Winner Takes Off, and Malcolm and Eddie, Season 1, Episode 4, Partnership of Fools.
Yeah, we love Perfect Strangers. It's our most improved, or maybe like most improved from my memories sitcom around here. So this is the season premiere of Season 4. So, because of our format, obviously, we're always dropping in all over the place. Perfect Strangers, I feel like every time we watch it, it's a different situation. They're in a bakery. They're in an office. Their boss is the guy from Saved by the Bell. Now he's a guy that I recognize from some other place.
He was he plays that like the asshole in every sitcom.
Yeah.
He's got that big wide grin. I'm trying to remember his name. So
he's his boss now. Balki works in this. The set is beautiful. It's like this big, like, library.
This is it's not the Chicago Tribune, but it's like the fake version of the Chicago Tribune.
Yeah, because I feel like they did actually work here in one of our other episodes, and I do vaguely remember getting into this, but the set is like, this old-timey, it just looks like this old building with these multiple tiers.
Yeah.
So, it just has that high-quality thing.
It's like all wood.
Yeah, there's globes and stuff everywhere. It's just, it's that kind of thing. And he's got this crotchety old boss, but the boss goes home and Miss Lydia and Harriet, none other than Harriet from Family Matters.
That's right.
They come, they're talking about playing the lottery, and we get the standard Balki, what is that? I've never heard of this basic concept. Please explain it. And so, they explain what the lottery is. And so what? Does he buy a ticket? How does it, or he just he just kind of gets it in his head so he can talk about it to Larry?
Yeah, he gets it in his head that he wants to buy it. So, Lydia, the woman he calls Miss Lydia, she has just won $100.
Right, which that's what you get when you
get like 4 out of 6 numbers right or something like that.
Because that's going to be a thing in almost all of these episodes.
Right.
This hierarchy of like 4 correct is this much, and if you get 5 correct, and it depends on how many people win, and yada yada.
Exactly. So she wins the lottery, and he's all excited, and he's like, that's amazing. What is the lottery? And then Harriet explains, oh, well, if you buy a ticket, you have the chance to win 24, 28 million, something like that. 20-something million. And so, and And then Balki's like, oh my God, Miss Lydia, you won $28 million. And she's like, well, no, I won 100, which felt good until a second ago. And so that's when he's like, wow, this is so cool. Then Cousin Larry comes over and he's like, Cousin Larry, do you know about the lottery? I've just learned about the lottery. And then he goes
He says
off.
the quote that I said before, that it's a scam invented by the state and the people who play were absent the day they handed out brains. And yes, exactly. But here's the funny thing. We've watched a handful of Perfect Strangers now, so we know the format is Larry is a buffoon, right? Balki is the wide-eyed innocent who ultimately will always kind of have his heart in the right place. Larry's the one who always steps in it and makes a fool of himself. In this case, Larry is the more sensible one, but yet he's so stubborn about being sensible that he becomes a buffoon in his sensibleness. Yes. Because he's saying that the lottery is dumb and pointless, which is something I agree with. Balki is basically, he doesn't quite have his head on straight, but he's saying sort of your philosophy, like, oh, what harm can it do? Right. So when Balki says, hey, tell you what, I'm going to buy a ticket, or he does buy a ticket, and they come back from the act break, and he's singing If I Were a Rich Man.
Yes, very well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so Balki is like all in on this lottery idea. He only spent $1. Right. And he just has this giddy excitement about it. So he's like, cousin, why don't you just split it? Give me 50 cents. Oh, because he borrowed the $1 from Larry.
He had forgotten his wallet. So while they were at the store, which happens off camera, he borrows $1 from Larry. And Larry's like, I'm going to let you borrow this $1, but I'm going to give you a lecture first. And he gives him a lecture, which we get a call back to later. Again, we don't see it. It happens off camera, but they call back to it later. And so he offers him the deal. Once he gets home, Balki's about to repay him the $1, and he pauses and offers him this deal that you're talking about.
And so, Larry is like, no, you pay me that full $1.
Because this $1 is worth something.
I don't want any ownership or involvement with this lottery ticket. I would rather have the 50 cents. Because Balki's saying, oh, come on, just let me pay you only the 50 cents, then we'll both be owners. And what the hey, if we win, we'll both win. And Larry's trying to make a point that, no, it is so improbable that I would rather have this 50 cents than, the opportunity.
Right. So, I would not spend 50 cents on this ridiculousness.
Yeah. And it's just exactly like on principle, he doesn't want to be involved. And so then the girlfriends come over, both the blonde girlfriends who are always there in all these episodes. And we get
Marianne and Jennifer.
The first, this is a trope we're going to track in all of these episodes.
Yes, I loved it.
The televised lottery draw.
And they all sit on the couch and they hold their tickets because usually it's more than one of them that's caught the lottery fever because it happens. They're only doing this episode because it happens to be a really big jackpot. And it's interesting that we, all of our episodes are kind of clustered in a sort of similar time frame.
Yes.
And they all are around that time that the lottery started in Florida. I think it started in like 92 in Florida, 93, maybe the law got passed, but I was in middle school and when it happened. And so there was, I find it so fascinating. They're all sitting there. They're on their different couches. They're holding up their lottery tickets, waiting for those numbers to be drawn.
Well, let me ask you, because in these different shows, we're going to have these different gimmicks. One of them has a chicken later that gets the balls. So
that was so complex, where it was like the chicken, like you drop something in and that made the chicken eat out of one side and that knocked a ball over here.
But
and it was
what we had,
so random.
I do vaguely remember watching the lotto drawings on TV when I was little, and they were like balls floating around in this box that was like full of air.
Yes.
So they were like floating around. And
then
it
was like a vacuum pushed up into the thing and it was like blowing them all around.
So that's what you had too?
Yeah, we had something like that. And what they would do is that they would, like for the pick 3, they would just have one shoot and it would, they would do like they'd open the little lid and that would push one of the balls up to the top. And then you take the ball out and the lid would immediately close again, and like reset the pressure. So they were all floating and they would pick 3 in a row. Now, but for the lottery, that was like, I think 6 or 7.
Yeah, 7.
But so when it was the pick threes always happened at like around the 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock news time. They were like the cheaper version. You never made the jackpots never got as high. But then the lotto drawing, that was always at like 10:59. It was like right before 11 p.m., right before certain networks I think would go off the air, right? That was when they would do it. And it was, they had one of those machines that had like all 6 or 7 tubes that would open like when somebody pressed a button, and it would go do 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 do, and it would fill them all. And then you like it would zoom in on the girl. It was always like a really pretty Vanna White girl who would like turn the balls around and read them.
Yeah, I remember that cadence. The guy would always say, and the next number is 12. And the next number is 9. And
Oh,
just have this
wow.
certain, like,
Ours
way
was
he
not
would.
like that at all. Ours was very like, and the next number is 9.
No, it was like a guy, and it was very like he had some energy, but it was a very sort of like declaratory kind of attitude. But anyway, okay, so this one is we don't even see. This is one where we're just hearing, right?
Right. We're seeing the back of the television.
Yeah. The real action here is Mark Lynn Baker's face.
Oh, yes.
When they're doing the drawing, Balki's already opined about, like you said, if I win, I'll spend some of the money on the people of my hometown, and then I'll spend some of the money on the downtrodden people of Chicago, saying all these noble things. And so,
and he's given Larry a piece of paper with the numbers on it because he's so nervous he can't he can't watch it or can't listen to it himself.
Yes, this is where the whole rest of the episode depends. And so, yes, this is a very, very silly sitcom-y plot contrivance where, it's not just like, here, why don't you take the ticket? I'm too nervous to look at it. It's no, write down, or I will write down my numbers on a separate piece of paper, hide the ticket, give you, Larry, the paper to read while they're drawing the numbers. So yeah, I forgot. Larry doesn't even have Balki's ticket. He has a handwritten copy of his numbers. And my God, Mark Lynn Baker's face when they read, like you said, 6 or 7 numbers, and he has like at the ready 6 or 7 different levels of like eye wideness and like total incredulity. Like his face changes with every number as it gets closer and closer, and his face gets funnier and funnier. He is so good. Like he's the best.
Yeah, it really is that like, and honestly, like shockingly throughout all of these episodes, we get pretty good acting on this part every single time, right? And I find that so fascinating that it's like, okay, what acting class teaches this? Because like it didn't matter if you were Mark Lynn Baker, Yale educated, or drama guy, or freaking Malcolm Jamal Warner who like grew up on the Cosby Show. Like you knew how to act lottery excited.
Well, I think that's because this is what I was saying before. Like this whole scenario is made for sitcoms, like random people getting a bunch of money, having their imaginations run wild, like that. This is what this scenario is for, more than real life, perhaps. But yeah, we got the dance of joy, right? Barry and Balki, Balki and Barry and Lauki. Balki and Larry do their dance of joy. There's some more.
The dance of joy. Have we talked about this on the podcast? That this is like a thing that they do, and it's like a huge moment every episode. Like, and not every episode because it doesn't happen every episode, but like there's a few episodes a season that it'll happen in, and like the audience just goes wild. We're in season 4 of this series, and like word has gotten out. It's so good. The studio audience is raucous.
Yes. This is the perfect blend where it's not like Married with Children or Herman's Head where someone goes like, oh, look at her butt, and like the whole audience just goes crazy. But it like...
So the audience isn't made of 13-year-old boys is what you're saying.
And they're not drunk, and it just doesn't have that
drunk 13-year-old boys, yikes.
But this one, like, again... Mark Lynn Baker's acting when they're going all crazy, they're doing the dance. of course, Larry's like, we won! We're gonna be rich. And so Balki's like, what do you mean we? You didn't want to take the money. You have no stake in this. And then Marklin Baker, when he starts doing the nervous, like he's walking back his thing and he's doing the old like, oh, Balki, buddy. But he starts buttoning Balki's shirt. It's the funniest little business. He starts fixing Balki's collar and buttoning his shirt like your wife would do, getting you ready for like an event or something.
He's like, oh, honey, I see too much chest hair.
Yeah.
You can never see too much of Bronson Pinto's chest hair.
It's
just saying.
Yeah, it's the funniest business that he does. And yeah, so of course he's walking it back. And then, you know, when Balki finally says like, okay, I'll give it. I'll let you share the money. We get, of course, the twist that where's the real ticket, right? They only have the handwritten copy. Balki forgot. And that's basically like the next 8 minutes of the episode is Larry and Balki just tearing apart their apartment.
Oh, yeah. So it makes me wonder if they actually are getting a new set. You know, a lot of times they'll do that. They'll have an episode like in iCarly when they wanted to redo her bedroom and like give her a new look. They had I think it was like a fire or something in her bedroom or like some problem.
That bad.
No, but then same on Webster, same thing.
Yeah.
They wanted to give him a new set, so there was a fire. Like there's always something.
I do think
these guys tear this place apart.
I feel like they do that kind of all the time, though. Like, if you think of the camping episode, it wasn't quite the same.
They just moved furniture out of the way for that one.
In disarray.
Yeah.
The thing that really got me with this, you know, of course, they're flipping over the couches and everything.
They're looking for the ticket because Balki's forgotten where he put it. And he's trying to Larry's trying to walk him through. Okay, you were standing in the living room. All right, living room. And you thought, ooh, I'll just put my ticket right. And then coat closet. And so then they go on and on to each little place.
Yeah, the part where they rip apart the vacuum,
right.
And it's just like the dust from the vacuum goes everywhere. And it's obviously they've just filled this vacuum bag with some sort of like fake safe dust, like stage dust.
Right, stage dust. It's stage dust.
Like,
gross.
It's
probably baby powder that's like colored brown or cocoa powder.
It was nauseating. The thought of having
so bad. I was sneezing just looking at it.
And they look at the books, right? It was funny when Balki goes, okay, I remember. I put it in a book. Which one? Shakespeare. And then he runs over and Larry goes, comedies or tragedies? And Balki goes, sonnets.
Grabs the middle one. Like the business, right? From bit to bit to bit. Yes. There's like every physical. There's this one part I like was smacking you because they were doing something where Balki was like on and off the couch a couple of times, and Larry would like push him to get past him to run to the other side of the room, and Balki would land on the couch, do like a cheerleader basket toss twist, and then land on the other side of the couch, and then the next time on the way back when they said Shakespeare and he runs to the bookshelf, he legit knocks him like kind of like half on his back and half on his neck, and he flips backwards but forwards over the back of the couch and stands up, perfect gymnast form, turns around and is at the bookshelf. I was like, first of all, is that couch a trampoline? Second of all, you gotta be in real good shape to do that.
Yeah, no, that's what's amazing about these guys and this show that I never realized back in the day is because it's like the formula's always the two of them. You get like the girlfriends pop in for a little bit. You get like a touch of the boss. But because they're like, at least in the episodes we've seen, their relationships as relationships are not the focus at all.
Right.
It's always just Balki and Larry like getting into crazy hijinks with each other.
And we've seen them in all of the episodes that we've watched. We've seen them in all three of their job locations.
Yeah, but it always comes down to...
It's amazing.
But it's always just like the two of them like getting tied to each other somehow,
right.
flipping each other over. One has to control the other, you know, like it's always these wacky things. And so, yeah, this one, there's another act break and the girlfriends come back in and it's like Larry and Balki reduced to just whimpering shells of themselves.
Right.
They're on the ground. It's great when they do this, when they talk in unison, like the girls are like, oh, we just wanted to check on you. And the two of them are like, Thank you. And then of course, the girlfriend is like, oh, and Balki, here's that little envelope you asked me to look after.
And the same thing again here, where it was the beats of the looks.
Yes.
Only earlier it was just Marklyn Baker doing it, and we were, laughing because every number, he was basically just acting with the audio. This time it's silent, and you see this envelope that he asked Marianne to hold dawn on them in 5 distinct faces. And they do it in perfect unison, and then they make a beeline for the envelope.
Yeah, and they get the envelope, and they in turn make a beeline for the lotto office, right? So this is the other...
This looked like a DMV where people were holding their lotto tickets to wait to get paid.
I have no idea how you
It's is that a real thing?
Yeah, I don't know how you redeem the lottery. But so let's start tracking this trope, because this is going to be the overarching story thing that plays into pretty much all of these. You didn't actually win the lottery, right?
Yep.
That's what it always comes down to. Or you won an insignificant amount.
That's right.
We find some way of reaching that.
Is that a 4 or a 7?
Right. In this case, it's the handwriting, right? Classic case of Larry misread Balki's handwriting, or vice versa. He says something like, oh, I put there's a little line through the 7. Oh, but I put those through my Z's too to make them not look like 2s or something. I don't know. The point is that they have most, but not all, of the numbers.
Yeah.
And so just like their friend from work, they win $100, right?
That's right. And Balki's so excited, and he's thinking about all the things that they can buy with it together. And Larry's all upset because he's thinking about the $28 million that he lost. And just like in all of our Perfect Strangers episodes, they sit together on the couch and they have a little conflab, a little heart-to-heart, where Larry realizes the error of his ways, and Balki is just, he's living such a happier life because of his outlook on things, right?
Yeah, but wait. It's interesting that Larry never really re-examines his original position on the lottery. He never thinks he never reflects on the events of the past day and go oh, should I play the lottery in the future maybe? Or does this just reinforce further my original belief that the lottery is for idiots and you should never play? That whole aspect of it is
totally
sort
gone.
Of abandoned. Yeah. What's the button at the end?
So it's Balki misunderstands 98% of Larry's realization about how he always sees the glass half empty and he always sees the glass half full.
Heartfelt thing where Larry sort of identifies Balki's whole character. He's you just compare this $100 you have to the absence of it before. I compare it to what I could have, and that's why I'm sad.
Right, and that's why you're always happy. And Balki makes some comment, and then he he doesn't really understand what he's saying, and he's like, well, you always see the glass half full, and I always see it half empty. And he's holding his hand as though there is a glass in his hand. And Balki's like, cousin, I do not see any glass at all.
Yeah, it is. Mark Lindbaker's been referring to this make-believe glass for the whole little speech. Yeah, so this was a good one, they always are.
Yeah.
And very, you say, okay, sitcoms where they win the lottery, this is exactly what we expect, right? Gather around the TV, go crazy thinking that you won, and then have, we lost the ticket, a bunch of hijinks, and then, it turns out that it was fake.
Yeah, this is the kind of trope that I think, I'm so surprised we didn't think of it earlier, because it is so perfect for sitcoms that you... I cannot get over how each and every one of these shows was funny and well acted in different ways and the same ways that just made them so enjoyable. And it's like, man, this is what you're looking. If you're like a nostalgia junkie, you know, and you want to go back and watch old TV shows, look for lottery episodes, man. They're great.
And there are quite a few. All right, moving on to Mama's Family.
Season 5, episode 15, The Big Wheel.
Yeah, this is our first time covering Mama's Family. Whenever I see this character, it always reminds me of like an Amanda Bynes character from All That.
Well, that
this,
makes sense.
Much younger woman with this like old lady wig on and like kind of making this like cartoonish posture. So this is early 80s?
It started in the early 70s. So this was a sketch on the Carol Burnett show.
Okay.
In both of its iterations. And Carol Burnett played Mama's daughter, Eunice. And so you had Mama, who was played by the much younger Vicki Lawrence. I think she was in her third. Well, when she started playing it, she was in her 20s. But when it spun off and got its own TV show, then she was in her 30s.
And what was the joke? Like, what was the sketch?
The sketch was the
mean old lady.
She was a sassy old lady. Yeah, she was a sassy old lady, and it was her. It was her and Eunice. That was Carol Burnett was her daughter, Eunice, and then Eunice's husband was played by Harvey Korman, the tall guy that was on the Carol Burnett show. And so they were husband and wife. And so Mama and Eunice would have all these little arguments and zingers back and forth to each other. And that was like, that it was like sort of All in the Family, but like like gender swapped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that was kind of the thing that they did. And there's a sassy lady, and then, the older person was playing the younger person's playing the older person. And so it was just a very funny dynamic. And in 1975, like midway through Carol Burnett's show run, the producer of that show, who was Carol Burnett's husband at the time, was like, I want to spin you off. Like, you need to do this. And Vicki Lawrence said no for like 8 years or something, because the show didn't get made until 1983. And so it took all that time for Carol Burnett and Harvey Korman as well, and Carol Burnett's husband, this guy, Jim Howard or something like that, the producer, to convince her to do this show and to spin off this character and play her. And it ran on NBC for 2 seasons, and NBC had made a bunch of changes to it. They wanted to have actual teenagers on the show and all this other stuff to make it like a normal sitcom in quotes. And it did okay. It was like sort of middling, ratings wise, and they canceled it after 2 seasons. Well, then it was like resurrected 5 years later because it had been airing in reruns, but it couldn't go into full syndication. Well, syndication, Laura Marr bought it, did a deal, and then it came back like 6 years later for another 4 seasons or something.
So now she's not comically too young to play the character. She's just like confusingly too young to play the character.
Exactly. And that's what we're in. We're in season 5.
Yeah. If you're coming at this just as a TV show and you're not thinking, you don't know about this Carol Burnett history as sketch character, what makes it so strange is that the tone of this show is broad, but not that broad. Like, not that much more broad than a lot of the other sitcoms from the 70s and 80s we talk about.
Yeah, but they did tone it down when she went to sitcom.
Yeah.
It was a lot sassier.
But that's what I'm saying
on the Carol Burnett show.
From my point of view, that makes it stranger that you have a fairly normal, down-the-middle sitcom that just this old lady happens to be played by a younger lady for some reason. It's like Sophia from Golden Girls, but like even more so. They're just
first season, for the first like 2 seasons, Rue McClanahan is the friend that like lives. I think that she like rents a place from or something. I don't remember. But like she was on it, and then Betty White was on it in the later seasons, as well as this like rival, this like sexed
so
up
that gave
evil
them the idea
neighbor.
that the oldest character should be played by not the oldest actress.
Person. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Setting aside this particular thing of the younger, middle-aged woman playing old lady or whatever it is. The premise of the show is basically just this family where you have mama, and then you have her son, who is himself kind of an older dude.
Right.
He looks like he's in his 50s.
Yeah.
But he's married to this younger lady.
Yes.
And then they also have that he has a son, or there's just another, because there's a grandson.
Right. That's his nephew.
Okay.
So
is that Carol Burnett's son?
Yes, exactly. Gotcha. Exactly. Because Carol Burnett only did guest appearances when it went to sitcom. And so that was like, that was what
so
they
Mama
had to have
has
a regular character that was of that line.
So she's got a son, a daughter-in-law, a grandson, and a best friend or neighbor or whatever. She's going to be the one that introduces the lottery element of it, because is this another case where it's almost the opposite of Larry and Balki? She owes her $1 and says, like, I bought you a lottery ticket or something. What happened?
Exactly. So she has gone to the store for her.
Oh, right. And she has change.
Exactly. And she had something was on sale. So she said everybody has lottery fever, and the fates were telling me that since your change came to exactly $1, no more, no less, that it was meant to be for me to buy you a lottery ticket. And so I bought you a lottery ticket instead of giving you your change back.
Yeah.
And Mama is incensed.
Yes, she is similar to Larry on Perfect Strangers. She's a lady of my own philosophy, where she's like, this is stupid. I'd rather have my dollar.
Go get me my dollar
I don't
back.
want a lottery. What she says, because, they make the point that lottery fever is sweeping the nation, or the area, I guess, because this does happen. The Powerball jackpot gets to a certain point, the lotto jackpot gets to a certain point, and people who don't normally play it start playing it, becomes this thing. And her son, or rather her grandson, I think, I don't remember which one of these dummies is the one doing this. There's a running joke throughout the episode, and this is why it's so predatory. This is what happens, is he keeps buying more and more lottery tickets, because he's like, well, if it's a 1 in a million chance, and I buy 2, then I just made it a 1 in 500,000 chance.
Right.
If I buy 10,
he doesn't understand that the numbers all have to be on one ticket. He thinks you just have to have the numbers.
Yes. That comes into play later, where he thinks that like just getting them like almost like a bingo card or something. That's
right, but that's what is
works.
Equivalent to the odds he's calculating.
Yes.
Like the joke throughout the episode, everybody just thinks he's calculating the odds incorrectly and he can't do math.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to the end and you realize his misconception, it was a mathematical misconception. He was mathematically accurate. He made a conceptual misconception at the beginning that you just had to have the numbers somewhere on any of your picks, which makes his math actually correct in terms of the odds, which I thought was really funny on their part that they did it right.
Yeah.
Like they could have made up fake numbers and it wouldn't matter, but they actually were mathematically accurate. So yay, Mama's writers.
But it was like, but before they reveal his misunderstanding, I was thinking of it as the misunderstanding that most people have, which is true, but still irrelevant. That like you are doubling your chances when you get 2 tickets. If you liked your chances before and you buy 20 lottery tickets, you do have 20 times the likelihood of winning. Yeah. And so when he starts saying, I spent my whole paycheck on lottery tickets, I'm just like, this is the problem. But Mama is, like whatever. She's she lets the friend have the ticket.
Right. Yeah. So Iola, she tells Mama, that you can't get your dollar back. Like lottery tickets are non-refundable. Yeah. And so she's like, well, then, you give me $1 and you keep that ticket. I don't want that ticket.
Do they even, because I feel like they just sort of let it go. Like Mama's like, oh, who cares?
Yeah,
like, does she
take that ticket. Like,
because then they have the televised drawing.
Right.
Like
She's
they
like,
always
I don't
do.
want it. It's later on where she comes to pay her back the dollar.
When they have the televised drawing, like they always do, and they realize, oh my God, the lottery, our ticket won.
Yep.
Mama just snatches it out of the friend's hand.
So,
She's
well,
just like,
thank
that's
you.
mine. And then the friend, they argue a little bit, and the friend snatches it back. So it's literally just like which one of them is physically in possession, and it does not occur to them to split the money in their case. They are the opposite of Larry and Balki. They're just like, well, someone won the lottery here.
Yeah.
And whoever has the ticket, it's got to be who it is. And
They're
it
the
never
ones who
crosses
won.
their mind to just be like, why don't we go halves on it since it was your dollar, but my idea to buy the ticket.
Yeah,
But-
it does later on when
Yes,
they come
but
to the
not
agreement.
now.
Yeah, then we get the scene where they're all sitting in front of the TV, and the grandson Bubba has 2 lottery tickets, and Naomi, the daughter-in-law, has, a couple of tickets or 3 tickets, and she's holding them up. And then you've got the son, Vinton, and he has a paycheck's worth. And so he's got this big long string, and he's trying to check all the numbers, and it's ridiculous. He can't keep up with it. And, and then you've got Mama and, Iola on either side of that couch. And so, she just walks right over and snatches it out of her hand as soon as the numbers, as soon as Iola says, oh my God, I won. We get her doing the stages of surprise in this one.
Yeah, but then the friend just snatches it right back and leaves. And just like, this is it. Like, finders keepers, I got it. So, like, but that's how it ends. Like, the friend is the lottery winner. She's, like, in control.
Right.
And then Mama invites her back and forgives her, quote unquote, and has this whole plan where she's going to invite her back and make nice and then, like, casually drop some reference to the lottery curse.
That's right.
Right? Very sitcom-y solution to this problem. And this friend buys, like, she's able
hook,
to
line, and
effortlessly
sinker.
deceive the friend. Like, not a moment's hesitation. She just,
and
like,
she
curse?
has her, like, minions on her side, too, because they're all mad at the friend for not splitting it or not, giving it to Mama. And she's got them all, you better be nice to her because we're going to get this money.
I don't think she even plans ahead of them, go along with my lottery curse thing. They just do the old, like, yeah, that's it. That's the ticket. And that's enough to fool this lady. And so she's like, well, I guess, like, would you be kind enough to let me split the winnings with you and then you can, like, dampen the curse?
Right. Maybe the curse won't be so bad on either of us if we split it.
Yeah, I think she wants to, not only cut the curse in half, but maybe if she's like, she'll get some good karma.
Right.
But so, yes, there's a lot of just like easy come, easy go. And so the wrinkle in this lottery system, or wait, is this the one that has the chicken that picks it out?
This is,
and
it's
the
like,
wheel?
right, exactly. It's like so many, this is so complicated, right? So like when you win the numbers, you don't actually win money, you win another chance, which is crazy. It's like you're buying a chance of a chance.
Yeah.
You win another chance to go spin a wheel.
To go on a TV show with the least appealing TV host of all time.
Exactly.
Larry McCrary.
Oh, God, it's so bad. But yeah, it's like this extra complex thing. So the total prize that you could possibly win is $2 million. But it's like chance on chance on chance. You have to pick 6 numbers correctly. You have to get the chicken, Henrietta, to eat on the ×2 side of the board. And then you have to land on one of, I think, 6 triangles that are $1 million on this thing. And so it's like an infinitesimally small that you would be able to do that. It's like, it's
and it
bananas.
has this, it's like a game show, basically.
Yeah.
It is like, yeah, like we're going to do our nightly lotto drawing. That's part one. And then stay tuned. Like later, we're going to have them come down to the station.
Chicken.
Yeah. And this guy, I just cannot overemphasize. He's wearing like this blue leisure suit tuxedo thing with like a scarf sort of like wrapped around it. He's got the, he's like big, heavy guy with the comb over and this just like major like used car salesman energy. Just like, oh, hey, okay, everybody. I don't know. What a lovely lady. Just like this very weird.
It's so weird. It is like a parody of itself. It's like it was written for a sketch show. So like when you talk about it not being that broad, like this is very broad.
We also, again, but it's sitcom broad. It's not necessarily like 30-year-old lady dressed up as an 80-year-old lady broad. But yeah, they're playing against an opponent, we should mention. Chad Parker, financial planner, is the other contestant. And this is the other little subtrope you get.
He's going to do something very sensible.
Yeah, he's a financial planner, so he's, I'll just invest it in the, in the government bonds.
Yeah, we find out in the Perfect Strangers episode that Marianne is actually the financial whiz. When we get to her on the couch, that's her thing.
But that guy, he wins $10,000 and goes, drat, that's one lousy T-bill. And like storms off. And then it just ends with them. They don't win. And it's just another one of these like easy come, easy go. At least we're still friends. Henrietta does eat on the double side, so she's going for $2 million. She spins the wheel, the ball rolls around and around and around. It stops in $1 million, and she turns around and starts cheering with her family, and they're all yay, yay, yay. And then the wheel moves just a little bit more, maybe from their jumping, maybe not, and the ball rolls down to $100. Yeah. And so you've got already in both of these first two shows, you've got the sort of like having to go through the weird Dante's Inferno of like bureaucracy. Like in Perfect Strangers, it's just the weird DMV office. Here it's like the game show, but it's always like you go there thinking you won, and then there's all these crazy machinations. And you didn't really win. And then they also both have this thing of like the physical ticket. Like it all comes down to like either they lose the ticket or you're fighting over it and you have to trick somebody. But they both have that thing of like, where's the ticket? We need the ticket, and this little slip of paper being like, having your whole life riding on it.
Yeah. And that's what happens in this one too. When Mama finds out and, realizes that it rolled down to $100, she pulls the ticket out and she's like, but I've got the winning ticket, and lunges at our used car salesman host, and the whole show, devolves into melee.
Yeah. And that's it. Roll credits, back to status quo.
Right, exactly.
All right, let's see how this continues with Fresh Prince.
That's right. This is the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Season 3, Episode 14, Winner Takes Off.
Yeah, so this is our centerpiece episode. I feel like this is one that when we started thinking about lottery episodes, my mind immediately went back to this. It's funny how...
even remembered this scene, this cut of Geoffrey just, blowing it all to burning all the bridges down to the ground.
Yeah, Geoffrey is a great example of your comedy character that's meant to be all stuffy and everything, but clearly the guy playing him is, just as much of a cut up as everybody else. Yeah. And so I remember as early on as the second or third episode of The Fresh Prince where Geoffrey has to pose as some sort of beat poet or something, or sort of
I don't remember that at all.
Afrocentric, guru or something. And he wears a crazy wig and he puts on a crazy performance. And it's all some contrivance that Will has made him do. But yeah, they love to do this thing of making him sort of break character and go crazy and can get him to just, be wacky and not be the stuffed up Geoffrey.
Yeah. The one thing about this episode that was different, I think, than other Fresh Prince episodes and also kind of surprising is that, like, these guys, they generally do learn a lesson. Like, Will often learns a lesson. Sometimes Carlton, sometimes the other characters. But, Will generally does. This time, though, they're kind of villains.
Oh, yeah. This is a very strange episode. In some ways, I think it's one of the best. It's one of my favorite episodes of The Fresh Prince. And in several ways, it's kind of bad. What's interesting to me is that this is 3.14, right? The Pie episode. So this is only season 3. We've still got Original and Viv.
Yeah. Who is pregnant.
Yeah. Relatively early in a pretty long-running series. And yet, like, you could kind of make the argument it's already jumped the shark. Like, you see in this episode how this show has already become, not all the time, but some of the time, what Perfect Strangers always was, which is a silly two-hander with these two guys, Will and Carlton, getting into wacky situations. And again, talk about a cut-up. Alfonso Ribeiro is just as much of a silly guy as Will Smith is. And so a lot of the episodes are these two getting into wacky hijinks.
Right.
And, God bless the women cast members on this show for
having
even
to put up with it.
to work. Yeah, could you
they
imagine?
Had like 3 lines. I think Hillary walked downstairs, sat on the couch, and was like,
and
really?
gets kissed by Geoffrey during his victory celebration. That's her biggest thing. Yeah, and Viv has a horrible B story that maybe we'll get to in a little while. But yeah,
and Ashley says, "Don't tell me to go upstairs. It's getting old," like in a meta moment.
Yeah, so there's really the whole idea of, this is a family sitcom / fish out of water where we're going to have this kid from the mean streets have to acclimate to the, prim and proper Bel-Air, and what's that going to do to the family? And it's like, yeah, it's kind of still that, but a lot of it now is just Will and Carlton doing funny voices and dunking on celebrities and just,
Carlton has a moment that was kind of like what you were talking about at the beginning of the episode, though, where he's like, wouldn't it be great to win the lottery and you could drive around in fancy cars and you could eat at nice restaurants and you could do this and do that? And he's like, what would life be like if life was like that? And he's like, wait, life is like that.
Yeah. Carlton recognizes his privilege. And he's like, winning the lottery would be pointless. This is, the opiate of the masses, but I am not the masses in this case.
Right.
So let's back up a little bit. This episode is all about this prank war, basically. Right. Geoffrey versus Will and Carlton, a specific kind of prank where they like to hustle each other.
Right. They're trying to make the other one the what is it, like the mark?
They constantly want to make bets, and it's just funny that just the delicate sort of what would you call it? Like the sanctity of the economy in this house, where they won't just steal his money, because that wouldn't be allowed or they'd get yelled at. But you can do all kinds of lying.
And they know that's wrong. Right.
Yeah,
but they're like, let me see if I can swindle my employee out of his money.
Yeah, so the episode begins, it's the cold open with them doing 3-card Monty. And there's a funny point where they ask Geoffrey, do you know how to play? And he goes, do you do the Hell's Kitchen version or the A-Train hybrid?
Right.
So they're like, whatever do you mean? And so they get him to bet and he loses, and then he
wins and then he doubles down and then he loses. And then they're like, as they're kind of celebrating, they think Geoffrey's out of earshot, and Carlton's like, that's what I call you've been hustled.
What you just said is 10 times more logical and reasonable than what Carlton does. He pulls a total screech in this situation. As Geoffrey is clearly not out of earshot, he goes, great, that was fun, Will. Now we should swindle Dad.
Yeah, let's go hustle Dad.
Now we should hustle Dad.
Yeah.
Oops. He literally does what Screech does, just say the secret out loud and then say oops.
Yeah.
So then Geoffrey turns back and gives them the sort of evil eye. It's on, cut to the opening credits. And then...
Well, and he also lays on the guilt trip because he's like, I really could have used that money. I work hard for it.
That's after we come back from the theme song and Geoffrey's all sullen and he's like, he's taking it hard. Like he's not letting it go.
I was going to buy lottery tickets. You don't understand. The jackpot again is up to, this time it's 26 million. I think we've had 28, 24, and now 26.
Yeah.
So, and I think one time it was 2 million, right? Yeah, that's what it was.
So that sets in motion that Geoffrey is pissed.
Yeah.
And then we get, like I said, and I don't want to give too much time to it because the show certainly doesn't, this horrible B story where Aunt Viv has decided she wants to be a writer. I think she's one of these like sitcom moms that was always having different like career changes and always had like things going on in the background.
Yeah, she's trying to figure out what she wants to do. And her husband makes a ton of money. So she has that time, she has that flexibility to sort of figure it out.
Yeah. So she's written a short story. She gives it to Uncle Phil and says, read this, please, and let me know what you think. And then as soon as she's out of earshot, Uncle Phil is like, well, I can't read this. Listen, boys, let me tell you something about women.
Yeah, let me tell you something about marriage. This is a trap.
He goes like, first of all, it never even occurs to him that it could be good or that he could that it could even be good enough.
Well, it did. He said, even if it's good and I say it's good, she won't believe me.
She won't believe me, yes,
yeah.
Which is a pretty cynical take. And then he says, and if it's bad, or he's like, if I tell her that it's bad, then she won't make me happy or something. Like he adds something that implies like she won't satisfy him sexually.
No sex for a while.
Yeah, so he's like, so just take it from me, boys. Best thing to do is lie. If somebody, if a woman gives you something that they want an opinion on.
Just wait till she forgets about it is what is his aim.
Buy her something and wait till she forgets.
So I'm going to go get her a car and off he goes out of the house.
Yeah, so we leave that thread dangling. And then, the rest of it is going to be this war where Geoffrey's gambit is that he is going to pull the old, let's make a gamble on the TV game show, except it's the game show that I taped yesterday routine.
That's right. But he didn't know, or the guys didn't know, Carlton and Will didn't know that it was taped.
Obviously not. Yes, they walk in. He's doing the game show. He gets it wrong.
A couple of them wrong in a dumb way, and then he's like, "Want to bet on it?" And then they fall for it. They bet on it. He wins his money back. Lickety split. And then later they're upstairs talking to Hillary, or she comes in the room or something.
She comes down and she knows the answers too, to the next one.
And they're like, something's going on here. How the hell does she know the answers?
Yeah, and she goes, oh, well, Geoffrey's been watching that tape all day. And then Geoffrey comes in and goes like, would you kindly return my tape of the game show to my bedroom, showing, see, now I don't need the ruse anymore. Once I physically have your money, I don't need to trick you.
Just like in Mama's Family, once I physically have the ticket, I'm the winner.
Yeah, and so yes, they've been tricked into betting on a game show that they didn't know was pre-recorded. They've lost their money, so next act is they're hiding under Geoffrey's bed. Again, the rules of this household that you're allowed to sneak into somebody's bedroom and hide under their bed. But they see it as permissible.
This is part of the prank war, but they also are like, no, we don't steal. That's not who we are. We play pranks, and sometimes they're grifters. Right, but only on people that we care about. Sometimes the pranks go bad, and so we don't tell Uncle Phil that we're playing pranks because he doesn't even like us playing pranks.
Yeah, so their prank is that when Geoffrey, you see Geoffrey go into his bedroom and he puts his lottery ticket, he gives a little kiss or whatever and puts his lottery ticket in his bedroom drawer. And then Carlton and Will, after he's left, come out from under the bed and swap it with a fake ticket.
Or a real lottery ticket for the numbers.
Yeah, the details of this are tricky.
Right.
What do you think happens?
So I didn't figure it out until the end, right? So what they did was that they had already watched this pre-recorded lottery drawing.
Yeah.
Right? They got the numbers from that. They went and bought a ticket for this week
Yeah.
with those numbers. And then they
Exactly.
played the tape, making him and
Yes.
all the other members
here's
of
the
the
thing.
family think that it was this night's recording.
Right. So they're going to switch Geoffrey's ticket with a ticket that they made that has the winning numbers on it. But the obvious flaw is that this assumes that Geoffrey has no system whatsoever for the numbers he plays the lottery on, and he doesn't know what his numbers
Right.
were.
Like he did a quick pick.
Yeah, I guess. But that's, as we learn in various other episodes here, that's not how the lottery works for most people. Most people, I play my anniversary plus, Jose Canseco's number or whatever.
I mean,
The
I don't
idea-
know. When I play the lottery, I do quick pick.
Fair enough. I found it weird that you could have it just be like, just a series of random numbers. And again, he's treating this lottery ticket like it's his most prized possession. And at some point he wouldn't go like, wait, those aren't the numbers I picked.
Yeah. But like I said, I just assumed that it was, one of those
Maybe
quick
that's
picks.
what it is. So that's their ploy. And so we get, once again, the televised lottery drawing. The
Right.
whole family, and this particularly does not
Right.
make sense, that the Banks family...
Well, no, they aren't there to watch the lottery drawing. They're there to watch the 10 o'clock or the 11 o'clock news or whatever
Okay.
comes on right after it.
Yeah,
but
I guess that's true. It wasn't like its own show,
Yeah.
really. Although on Mama's Family it was, because they had the guy
Yes,
and
they had the whole chicken
everything.
and the whole nonsense.
Yeah, this one is just, again, we're back to like in the first show where we're not seeing it. We're just seeing
Right.
the standard sitcom set. Maybe you catch a glimpse of the back of the TV and you hear the voice announcing the numbers. Geoffrey does not quite have the roller coaster ride that Marklin Baker does, number by number. He
No.
saves all of his energy for after he has realized that he won.
Yeah.
And this has got to be one of your top 10, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, YouTube clip.
This is the Geoffrey Emmy moment, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, he, all in the course of 2 minutes, he starts screaming, "I'm rich." He kisses everyone in the room. He opens up the expensive champagne and dumps it out. He intentionally breaks a vase, and
That's like a really special, expensive, tens of thousands of dollars crystal vase.
yeah, he says something to Uncle Phil. Again, the misogyny that this show is just marinated in. His dig on Phil is to buy cooking lessons for Aunt Viv because her cooking sucks.
Right, because that's why they hire him.
That's
because
what
he
you
cooks.
got. Yeah, but it's a lame.
It's like, I'm
dig.
gonna leave you guys, so I'm gonna buy her cooking lessons. Here,
just-
take my last paycheck and pay for that.
He's mouthing off to everybody and actively breaking their stuff.
Oh yeah, take this job and shove it.
Yeah, then he jumps onto the couch and he goes, "In case you haven't realized, I quit!" He just starts screaming, "I quit!" Just with this delirious, wild energy. And then he hops like a bunny off the couch and runs up the
upstairs.
stairs.
The faces to watch, though, like you were saying, this time it's not necessarily him during the lottery numbers. It's Carlton and Will as they are, as it's dawning on them that he is taking this really seriously and he is legit burning every single bridge he possibly could. And they are they go to try to stop him to do the oops of it all.
It was a joke.
And he just keeps brushing past them, and their faces as they realize that it's they're in deep shit because there's no way they're going to get out of this prank now without Uncle Phil knowing.
Yeah. And so they go upstairs and Will and Carlton are like, all right, we have to talk to Geoffrey. We have to tell him what we did. And so Carlton goes what's your plan? Will says, again, talk about the celebrity digs. I'm going to beg like Keith Sweat. Did you understand that joke?
Nope.
So I made a note to look it
That's
up.
that's a song, right? He has a song that's called like Please or something.
Yeah, I was thinking, all right, there's some sort of scandal, some sort of tabloid thing that it was involved with. No, it's just that he was famous for being one of those guys where in his songs he was always going like, please, baby, please, please don't leave.
Yeah. Like I said no, and then I thought about it for a second, and I was like, I feel like I do know what that is.
Yeah,
though.
so that's all it is that Keith Sweat was apparently famous for begging
Please, baby.
within the world of music.
Of his R&B, his smooth jams.
Yeah. So they go in, and so now we get this actor, Joseph Marcel. Like, you really see how just a change in the tone of a character, like, just changes the whole vibe. Geoffrey is now, he doesn't have the manic energy where he's jumping around on the couch. He's laid back. He's got his top button opened. You know, this would be like...
He's packing his room. He's packing his things.
And he's just got this whole... Then suddenly you like realize, oh, this guy with this deep voice, like he is sexy AF. It's like if like Daniel Craig, you know, always played like weird, nerdy accountant guys. And then all of a sudden he played James Bond and you were like, oh, okay, now I see. Like you suddenly see what this actor could be if he wanted to be like a smooth dude and not this, you know,
not a butler.
Your muffins are ready, sir.
Right.
And so, yeah, so he's just like hanging in his room, packing up his stuff. He's going like, boys, the times we've had. Oh, you know, and then they tell him what they did, and he's like, okay, I will exile myself from this house.
Yeah.
And never...
I am now humiliated.
It is just wild, like, because again, the acting is amazing, and you could tell that he has now been directed to play it straight. Or maybe he's just deciding to play it straight. But the actor playing Geoffrey, when he goes like, oh... I shudder to think of the things I said to your parents. And like he delivers it so earnestly. And it's like, this is the most non-sitcom-y reaction to the most sitcom-y thing that somebody has ever done.
Yeah,
you know? So
well,
it's
but
so
that's
weird.
the thing. It was like he got that moment to be very over the top, and then he brought it back down to reality, and then he literally is brought back down to reality, and now he's facing, like he went from the highest highs to, I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with my life because I can't stay here because of what I've just done.
Yeah, it's just funny that it's not like when Larry and Balki go from high to low, the low is also comic.
It's
and
funny. No, this
With
is
him,
like...
it's like a serious,
yeah, it's
heartfelt-
emotional.
Yeah. Like,
and this is when you feel like, oh my God, Carlton and Will are jerks.
Yes. And it only gets worse in the second half of this. You know, they confess to Uncle Phil, Geoffrey quit because we tricked him into thinking he won the lottery. Ha ha, it was all part of our escalating prank war.
Oh, and he's, you know, again, Uncle Phil in his best, he's incensed, but he doesn't do the thing of where he just like strangles Will for a laugh, you know, and they cut to commercial. He's like, you guys need to make this right.
Oh, yeah, but he goes on a whole roller coaster, too. He's another example. All of the male characters in this show get to do all of this crazy, funny stuff within the guise of their buttoned-up personalities. So Uncle Phil does his whole thing of, what would you do if you were me? And, you know, Will goes like, I don't know, you know, buy us a car or whatever he does. And Uncle Phil starts to laugh. And then he does the really quick change of tone where he starts screaming at them. And at one point he goes, you take your square-headed little cousin here and go get him back. So he's talking to Will about his son, Carlton, the square-headed little cousin.
He's not my son anymore because he's following your ways.
Yeah, so he gets to be totally over the top with his, you know, yelling and anger and all that, and he sends them on a mission. And so we get now another sort of overlapping trope, the thing of like, oh, I have a new life now, I've started a new job and I'm happy here. And then you see like the boss come by and spit on him or whatever.
Yes, it's like, not a happy place. He's a waiter. He's like he's a
he's
waiter
at a posh
at
restaurant.
a very fancy restaurant.
He's like, where can I get a job that's good for this sort of hoity-toity guy that knows how to wear a tuxedo and serve, hold a serving platter?
Like, I'm stuck. I'm stuck here as well. Like, I mean, I don't know if it was an earlier episode. It might be a later episode. But isn't there like a thing where they actually sponsor his visa?
I think that what we're thinking of is the episode where they think he's going to have a scandal with his immigration status, and it turns out to be that he cheated in the race and was the shame of a nation.
Right.
And like, I don't know if they actually got it. I think he was like, no, I'm a U.S. citizen, no, I have a green card, or whatever it is.
Yeah. But that is, I don't know if that's an earlier or later episode, but that is a plot point at some point in Fresh Prince. So he's at this restaurant and he is just, he's happy, but not too happy to see the guys. He's like, thank you for coming down. But nothing's going to change my mind. I have humiliated myself in front of your family, and I will never be able to go back there and show my face again. I can never look at your parents again. I can't.
And what Will and Carlton do, like, their plan is
they have
terrible.
no plan. They just stay there until they get what they want.
No, their plan is ask nicely, and then when that doesn't work, Will says, okay, time for plan B. And what he does, and this is why I say it's just a platform for Will Smith and Alfonso Ribeiro to be silly, Will just launches into this whole thing where Geoffrey is their deadbeat dad. They're harassing people around the restaurant, they're pretending to be almost like the Damon Wayans, like, homeless guy character.
Yeah, they try to get him fired, and then he's like, I know what you're doing, it's not going to work.
But it's not
And they're like, oh, yeah, well, now we're going to sit at this table, and we're going to we're going to order.
Yeah, they start saying that Geoffrey's their dad, and why did you leave Mom? And Carlton will start saying something like, Carlton, he hasn't been able to grow. He won't grow because we don't have enough food, and then Carlton starts saying like, let me grow. Why won't I grow? Like, it's just all like silliness upon silliness. They're just like, just trying to embarrass him. And then he walks over and is charmed by it. He just kind of smiles and he goes, you two put yourself through all this for me.
Right, like they embarrass themselves at his work.
Goofing off at your job for like 30 seconds.
Around people that they're never going to see again, they don't care about. But like the way it's played in the show.
He reacts as though it's like, you went to my house and cleaned up all of my things.
You embarrassed yourself for me.
So he reacts like, oh, well, this must mean you really love me. And so he just says, okay, I'll come back. They clap, the audience claps, and it's just
all the patrons in the restaurant clap.
Yeah. And so it's just like, okay, problem solved. And again, this is very, very fun in terms of like, you get to see Geoffrey act silly. You get to see Will and Carlton act silly. It is, it is not based in reality, even more than the other ones.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes Perfect Strangers and Mama's Family funnier in that way, because they're like, the issues that arise are all directly related to the lottery for real, and the interpersonal issues that happen when you think you've won money and you haven't and whatever. Whereas this is more, it's like this prank war that gets out of hand. Yeah.
But we're 3 for 3 in terms of returning to the status quo.
Yes.
Discovering you didn't actually win. And that's going to change a little bit with the next show, which is Malcolm and Eddie.
Season 1, Episode 4, Partnership of Fools.
Yeah, so it's our first time covering Malcolm and Eddie, and our first time, I feel like, thinking about this sitcom in a long time. This is one that kind of like fell into a memory hole, I feel like, at least for people of a certain age.
Yeah, it wasn't on for very long, and it was on for like a few years, 96 to like 98 or something. That was well into that time we've talked about where we're kind of only watching our old favorites because we were in high school and you were in early college and we were, living the teenage lives. So this was Malcolm Jamal Warner's sitcom that he did after The Cosby Show. And we've talked about A Different World, which was, a direct spinoff. And, but now this is our first, I think, time where we're seeing a show where we've got somebody from The Cosby Show not related at all to any of the Cosby universe now having their own show. And it just so happened that he recently passed away as well, like a tragic drowning.
Very horribly, tragically,
got caught in a
unexpectedly, died. And so we were going, yeah, it would be great to talk about a show with him. There's an ongoing conversation about how
avoiding the Cosby Show third rail.
Yeah, the Cosby Show is sort of tainted for obvious reasons. And then I vaguely remembered, like, didn't Malcolm Jamal Warner have his own sitcom in the 90s or 2000s or something?
Yep.
Looked this up, found this trope, and we're off to the races.
Well, and this one isn't establishing. So even though we're in episode 4 of this series, this is season 1, though, this is an establishing moment in the series.
Definitely, and a very odd one. And I'm hoping that you can shed some light on this because, like we said, this is season 1, episode 4. So, spoiler alert, let's just say now what happens at the end of the episode. They do end up winning some money. They have to split it with other people, so it's not millions, but it is like a semi-life-changing amount of money, like $75,000 or something that they have to split between the two of them. It ends with them deciding to buy a bar and Malcolm Jamal Warner going, like halfway through the episode, going, I don't think I want to be a sportscaster anymore. I think I want to do something else. So I'm going like, what is happening? This is episode 4 of the first season of this sitcom. Like, how are they having him change his job now?
Already. Well, so it was, I think it was set up this way. They established the characters and their friendships and the various people in the building that they live in, the bar that's downstairs in the building that they live in, and Eddie's truck mechanic shop that's also attached to the building that they live in, right? So this is like their neighborhood. This building is their whole ecosystem. And we've met, the neighbor who lives across the hall who's also a parking meter maid. There's a hot girl who lives in the building who's just trying to sleep with a basketball player or a baseball player and get her way out of this part of town. Like this is we've met the whole ecosystem of people. They hang out at the bar downstairs. They live upstairs. Eddie works at this mechanic shop. So when they win this money, they decide to go in partnership together and buy the whole building because the woman who owns the bar, Kelly, just happens to be, hey guys, I know I've been here for a few episodes. I'm moving to Hawaii though. But so this was all he was established. Malcolm's character was established as a struggling sports writer.
Yeah,
right.
Which is back to The Odd Couple, and even before it, that's your classic sitcom job for a kind of cool young guy.
So now he's going to be a business owner instead, and he's going to be partners with his friend Eddie, who's a little bit childish. Yeah,
but you see what I mean? That it's just so funny. I could see that happening now. Netflix puts out a show that has 8 episodes, and in episode 4, the business starts coming together. But in terms of the older sitcoms, this is exactly...
it usually happens right in the first episode, like in Reba, right?
Or this is exactly the kind of retooling that we see happen in season 5 when they go, okay, the top brass,
this isn't working
changed.
Anymore.
Yeah, okay, what if they're not a sportscaster? What if they own a bar and we get rid of that guy and bring in this guy? And so it was so strange to me. I could understand if this was episode 2 and it was they shot a pilot where he's a sportscaster. They went to series and they wanted to rejigger it a little bit. But no, in episode 4, they win the lottery and have to split it with people and take their leftover winnings and buy a bar.
Yeah.
So very strange. I guess let's back up and, this one isn't as much about the machinations of the lottery, but we do get it. We get the televised drawing. I noted this show is very proudly set in Kansas City.
Yes.
The
Mama's Family
song.
also set in Missouri, just outside Kansas City.
Like the very first line of the episode is Eddie Griffin walking in and going, "Oh, they're doing the lottery numbers. Turn on channel 13," which to me was very funny because channel 13 in New York was PBS. That was like where you would go to watch like your most educational, like socially productive
That's
things.
so funny.
Not the
Yeah,
lottery
ours was
drawing.
I think ours was 2.
And you wouldn't want your lottery to be on 13 because it's unlucky. Malcolm's system involves Halle Berry's measurements. That's your
Right.
late 90s, dude mentality there.
Yes.
And they win. Their numbers are called.
Well, but so this is the thing. They had agreed that they were going to, buy this lottery ticket together, go for because it was another one of these huge jackpots or whatever. Yeah. And they had lotto fever, just like some of our other characters at the other shows. And they decide to buy this ticket together and they pick their numbers. Well, at the last minute, Eddie goes to the store and realizes that he needs to change the numbers because he had a dream about his 3rd grade teacher. So he changes the numbers to 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And that is, those end up being the numbers. And so then they call those numbers, but they call them out of order. So we get a nice moment where both the guys are like, "Aw, man, we didn't win," because they called those numbers, but they didn't realize that they weren't they were just the right numbers in the wrong order. And so then they kind of throw the ticket down, they walk out of the room, and then they come running back, and they were like, wait, oh my God, we won. So they're jumping up and down and they're so excited.
Yeah, they do the thing, like at this point, frankly, their celebration doesn't really hold up to some of the celebrations we've seen already tonight, but it's still pretty good. Eddie jumps into Malcolm's arms and he carries him around for a few minutes, and then he reaches the couch and Eddie goes, "Thanks for the ride. This is my stop." And it's just like a cute little moment, kind of like a Larry and Balki moment, if you will. They have their fun little celebration, and then it cuts to them going to kind of like Larry and Balki did, the like lottery center.
Yeah, like the DMV spot where you pick up your lottery
This
winnings.
time, there is a giant check on hand.
And there's all of these people sitting in seats holding
almost
numbers
like
the DMV.
Yeah, like a raffle.
Exactly. And they're like, "Oh, we're winners. Get out of here. Excuse us.
Like they're in a strip club. They walk in with single $1 bills
and they're giving them out to people. Here's $1. Here's $1.
Yeah, that's them like big timing everybody.
Right.
Walking around handing out dollar bills, going like, obviously we're rich because we can do this.
We can hand out these dollars.
So they get there and then it's explained there were 13 winners and so they get $75,000 each. So they make like they're going to do a Balki and go like, "Oh, we need to," I forget what the exact joke is, but they say something to the effect of like, "We're going to spend this on like very important things," and then they just get fancy stuff for their apartment or whatever.
Right.
Eddie Griffin has 2 different moments in this episode where he does an Asian accent.
Yes.
The first is when they're sitting around their apartment thinking about how to spend their money, and he says, "We need to get a satellite dish so we can get the Playboy channel in Japanese." And then he just like says some gibberish with an Asian accent just to like kind of punctuate his little,
that he likes
his
the
little
Asian porn.
remark. Yeah. And so we start to get a sense of their personalities. I'm speaking for myself, never having watched this, because this is not a case where like one of them is super uptight or like it seems to be Eddie is the more rascally one and Malcolm is the more together one, but they don't, this sitcom, for better or worse, is fairly low concept, like they're just kind of 2 guys. It's not like, they don't have these like glaring huge personality ticks that you latch onto in like the first 2 seconds, but so as they're talking about their money, you start to get a sense, Malcolm is talking about his investing or whatever, and Eddie is doing his whole thing of like, "Oh, you should max out your cards when you max out your life. You need to die in debt. We need to spend it all on credit cards or whatever." And, they just sort of like, it just kind of goes like that until they introduce this notion that we already talked about of the bar that they hang out at is going up for sale. And that's initially Malcolm's idea. What if I buy the bar?
Exactly. They have this conversation about, well, what are we really going to do with this money that's left? We spent a lot of it on, the stuff for the apartment and living large. But now, what do we do with it? And that's when Kelly comes in. This is an actress you've seen. The woman who plays Kelly is Miriam Flynn. She's got her hair dyed blonde, which is a different look for her. I almost didn't recognize her. And then, so she's like, oh, I'm going off to Hawaii, so you guys should do this. And, and so then they have a conversation about getting into business together, and Malcolm is hesitant. He doesn't want, Eddie to be his business partner because Eddie is so juvenile.
Yes, this is another one of these perfect sitcom setups where Malcolm has exactly half the money that he needs to buy the restaurant. The woman who owns the restaurant keeps referring to this hot prospect. She keeps saying, I got a hot prospect on the line. They've got an offer. They're willing to pay. You need to come up with the money.
Yeah, so, if you're going to do this, I need cash in hand by the end of the night.
Yeah, so he's split his lottery winnings with another person down the middle, and he happens to have exactly half of what he needs to buy this bar. And it's kind of an awkward thing that I can relate to where, Eddie is just like, come on, let's do it. And Malcolm is like, look, just because we're friends doesn't necessarily mean I want to be business partners,
right.
And obviously, like I said, we've sort of established he's the more responsible one. And so it just kind of goes on like that. How does Eddie convince him?
Well,
he's just sort of forced to a decision.
Right, exactly. They're down to the last minute. And he says, you know what? I will find the money. Don't you worry. It's going to happen. And so, yes, I'm going to buy the bar. And so he still is kind of like keeping Eddie to the wayside, thinking he's going to go down to the bank tomorrow morning. He'll get, he has enough collateral. He'll be able to get a loan for the other half. So he's going to say yes to her now. And then she's like, okay, signed, sealed, delivered, hands over the paperwork. Like, that's how things get bought, but whatever. Hands over the paperwork. Now he's the owner, and in walks this like mobster liquor distributor guy who's going to shake him down for the back bills for the liquor.
Yeah, he owes the mobster guy or the like Italian stereotype guy,
right? He's
money.
He's a liquor distributor, and he's like, she had credit because she was a customer I knew. You're brand new, no credit, you pay off her debts, let's go ahead, give me money now. And then Eddie has like some fast talking and convinces this liquor distributor guy not to take all his money now, just take a little bit and extend him a line of credit.
This is crazy. He owes him like $2,000 or something. Like, it's not that much money that this guy comes in for, and he goes, okay, you got 3 months. Like this, the mafia would not last,
No, I don't think it's actual mafia.
No,
they're just they're just
so
doing
bizarre.
like that.
3 months to come up with like $1,000.
I thought it was like 20 grand, but okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seemed like all the details seemed weird to me. But yeah, the real denouement, if you will, is, the way this all ultimately gets decided is the timed chess game. It all comes down to Malcolm and Eddie playing chess.
Right.
Are they playing chess to determine, if Eddie wins, he gets to own the bar with him? Like, I feel like that there was something staked on the game.
I thought they played the chess game to determine whether or not they were going to get a cappuccino maker or a diagnostic machine for the garage.
Okay.
Because they sort of have decided, yes, we're business partners, but we're going to be in charge of different factions of the business. Eddie, you're going to run the garage because you already work there and, you basically run it already. And I'm going to run the bar and be the landlord, and you can help out with the super kind of stuff because you know how to fix things.
Okay,
and
that
so
makes sense.
That was how they decided to kind of split it down the middle. But then it was like, all right, well, we've got these bills to pay off, so we're going to use this money to pay off these bills. Like the liquor distributor, there was another issue with like plumbing or something. They had to go right away. And then Eddie's like, yeah, I got to get a diagnostic machine. It's $1,000. And he's like, ooh, that's our last $1,000. Malcolm's like, I was going to use that for a cappuccino machine in the bar because not everybody, designated drivers, you want to be able to serve people, have something nice, whatever. And they get into this fight. And that's where it's like, we're going to settle this the old fashioned way.
Yes.
Speed chess.
Yes. They cut to a speed chess game. And yeah, you've got the whole bar and it's being like refereed by their gigantic friend that
Tim,
sits at the bar.
Or Tiny or something is his name.
This is where we get the second Eddie Griffin Asian impression where he starts narrating the chess game like it's a kung fu movie and doing the like weird kung fu voice. And
the thing where he like talks like it's subtitled.
Yeah. And then who wins the chess game?
Eddie wins because he has another hot girl come in and distract Malcolm by saying, hey, will you zip me up?
Yeah.
So this is the kind of thing, this show was canceled 11 episodes short of 100, so it couldn't go into syndication. The only reason Malcolm Jamal Warner stayed with this show as long as he did, he was pretty much miserable and made his like miserableness known to his co-star. Like he didn't really get along with Eddie. Like they had sort of a
sort of a Malcolm and Eddie type situation.
Yeah.
Opposites attract.
No, but they were better friends. Yeah, they were better friends on the show than I think they were in real life. They didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. But it wasn't just that. Malcolm Jamal Warner was often fighting with the producers and the network, UPN. This was a UPN originally produced.
It has that vibe.
Yeah, originally produced show. I said to Jay, like, partway through, I'm like, this feels like a Disney Channel show.
Yeah, it has the vibe like it's for younger people. It doesn't feel like a full-on network show.
Yeah. And so, Malcolm Jamal Warner's issue all along was you are playing into kind of base racial African-American stereotypes that are outdated. I've been on a show basically my entire life where we didn't do that and we were successful. I promise you we don't.
Successfully made an empire for a serial rapist.
Right. But I promise you we don't need to do that.
Yeah. And you can see with things like the chess game and stuff, you can see that sensibility of like, is there a way to make this a little more positive in its depiction? But
the thing like with the girl coming in and doing like a Martin thing where she is like, will you zip me up? And then Malcolm gets totally distracted and loses the chess game because he's so horny for this girl.
Lame sitcom horniness jokes. Totally.
Right.
We also, there's a part earlier when they're having their, like sort of heart to heart, Malcolm and Eddie, and Malcolm goes, yeah, I'm just thinking about us. And Eddie goes, hey, and I just wrote down typical lame turn of the century joke. We've got to have that. It's the late 90s.
So it was just kind of a bummer for Malcolm Jamal Warner. He really, he wanted this to be another income stream for the rest of his life because it would go into syndication, and it just missed it. And the reason it was canceled was because UPN got tired of arguing with him.
Yeah. Well, clearly there's, when you're changing careers in episode 4 of your show, it means not everybody's on the same page behind the scenes, and there's maybe too many cooks in the kitchen, or I don't know.
Right.
But it's a fun divergence from the other episodes for exactly that reason. That, at the end of the day, I did not think this was like a great sitcom episode. It wasn't super funny. It had good moments, and I will say, not being that familiar with Eddie Griffin at all, I thought he was fun.
The person, though, that's in this episode, that's in this series that I love, she was a friend of, I think maybe Vanessa's or something on, or maybe she was a friend of Denise because she was also in a different world. It's the girl who plays the meter.
Yeah,
the meter
I was going to say, we meet the two lady neighbors, and one of them is meant to be the quote-unquote hot one. She kind of looks like Naomi Campbell, and she's got the long hair and everything.
Yeah.
And then the other one is meant to be the sort of like weird, annoying one. And in my opinion, she's way more appealing.
Oh, she's
got
so
this
funny and
sprightly
spunky.
energy. Yeah, she reminds me of Left Eye from TLC.
Yeah.
She's just
she
got
played
that kind of...
Charmaine, I think, on A Different World and on The Cosby Show. And she had a similar energy there, although this one is like amped up to 11, where she's always kind of sexually harassing Eddie.
Yeah, it's very fun. She's just, she's got a fun presence, and they're all pretty good. I did notice after watching that Fresh Prince episode where Uncle Phil refers to his son as your square-headed cousin, Malcolm Jamal Warner has a very square head as well. Those two should make a movie where they're brothers in square-headedness.
Too late.
I guess they can. Maybe in heaven.
Now you're wishing Alfonso Ribeiro to die.
Death comes for us all. Okay, so looking back on these were a fun, lots of overlap with some notable differences. I like how each one sort of had like a different way that the people ended up not winning, but thinking they did.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Overall thoughts?
Oh my
MVPs?
gosh. So I've been wanting to get Mama's Family on the show for a long time, on the pod for a long time. That was not one I watched. It was one that was just kind of always in reruns. And I couldn't quite figure out the timeline because I feel like it was always around. So it was fun for me. We've talked about this, that I did watch the Carol Burnett show in reruns. So I knew it as a sketch. I knew it was a show, but it was always like not on network TV. And now I understand why, because it was only on network TV when I was 3 and 4 years old. So I never would have seen it. I only saw it in syndication, in its like new run version and in the old sketch version. So that was really fun to get that show on there. It's not a great show. That's one of those shows that like my grandma would watch and think it was really funny, and then she would turn on Hee Haw. Like that's kind of what Mama's Family is, but it was funny and I enjoyed it for what it was. And like I said, I enjoyed the acting in it this time around, but come on, hands down, Perfect Strangers. Perfect Strangers was like an acting class. It was a farce, like it was a live farce. Every time we watch Perfect Strangers, it's like watching a scene from Noises Off. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I realized if we're talking about lottery episodes of sitcoms, we have to mention that whole last season of Roseanne.
It was all a dream. I won the lottery.
Yeah, they win the lottery in the first episode of the season. And then at the end, it's like, I don't think it's like she wakes up from like a nighttime dream. It's like she wrote it as a story, but same difference. Yeah. And it just, that was a why, people didn't like it, and that's part of the reason why they changed that. But it's just worth noting that that's another example where they do something different and didn't just have it all get reversed in the same episode. But these I largely agree. I think that the Malcolm and Eddie is interesting to see how it's not even the 20th century yet, but already it's like we need to switch up the trope a little bit. Like that's the least tropey of these.
That's
it's
true.
It's the only
that's
one
true.
that's not going through those same exact paces. It's like, no, let's actually use this as like a mechanism to change the story.
Yeah, the thing that I thought was interesting about Malcolm and Eddie is the fact that, and I think this also, not only is it a podcast debut, but I think it's also the first time we've featured a UPN show. We've definitely had WB shows. A lot of those WB and UPN shows before they merged, though, were those hour-long dramas like Buffy.
Silk Stockings.
Yeah, Silk Stockings, Xena Warrior Princess. But so it's kind of interesting to me to see how these like fledgling networks are trying to dip their toes in the water. to create quality TV. And you can just see they're getting the writers that can't get hired at the big networks.
Yeah, well, and frankly, not to be rude, but to a certain extent, the actors as well. Like, and again, that's not to say that you wouldn't ever necessarily have a network sitcom with those guys, but you're right. Like, everything about the production is just a little bit like B-list. You know, it's just not on the level of, like, you know, whatever was going on at that time.
Golden Girls or something else. Yeah,
right.
It just doesn't. But that's the thing. That's what makes it feel like a Disney Channel show, which is so interesting because there are really great Disney Channel and Nickelodeon shows. But yeah, there's just something about it that feels a little like, you know, kid network bootstraps pulling up kind of thing.
The slight cheapness combined with, like, the tone. You could have a cheap show that also is crude and vulgar and stuff. This is a cheap show that's being positive and nice. And so, yeah, it all kinds of adds up to, feeling a little...
Just comparing that with the Hot in Cleveland, which was the TV land of, obviously, we're looking at like 25, 30 years later, in terms of cable television producing their own original programming, but night and day.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously totally different target audiences in every way.
Yeah.
Like, you basically have to find
old
the
white
opposite
ladies,
person.
young black dudes.
But look, Mama's Family was fun that's exactly the kind of stuff I hope to watch when we do this podcast. You find those old sitcoms from the 80s that have the cheesy opening theme music and the wacky neighbor and the super simple...
I forgot to tell you about the opening theme of Mama's Family. So what you're hearing is the instrumental version of a scat a cappella like comedy riff that Vicki Lawrence made up about her character and what this show was going to be about. And Vicki Lawrence for the last 20 years has been doing this one-woman show that's like, you know, 2 women, 1 body or something like that. The first half, she does, you know, tells stories and does like kind of memoir and some stand-up comedy as Vicki Lawrence. And then in Act 2, she comes back in full mama garb and does Act 2 as Mama.
But if it's like now, isn't she Mama... in a real way?
She still wears the garb.
No,
but yes,
she should be doing the opposite. She should come back dressed up as a 30-year-old woman.
She's probably older because Mama was supposed to be like early to mid 60s. I think Vicki Lawrence is in her late 60s, maybe early 70s. But so, yeah, because she was in her 30s in the 70s, right? She's like around our parents' age. So, yeah. Anyway, but so that's her like one woman show that she's done forever. And she sings the like original version of the song that didn't make it to the show in this production. So just keep your eyes peeled because I want a present coming my way is tickets to see
Vicki
2
Lawrence.
Women, 1 body or whatever. Vicki Lawrence live.
Yeah, I'll get that ticket. So look, nothing bad to say about Mama's Family, but that said, yes, of course, The Perfect Strangers and frankly, The Fresh Prince, like again, Perfect Strangers ultimately is the better one because they're both being very funny and silly and doing what we want sitcoms to do, but Perfect Strangers is doing exactly what it set out to do from the start. It never was meant to be anything other than Larry and Balki jumping over couches and flipping each other over and things. Whereas Fresh Prince, like I said, was supposed to be a show about a family and is now just Will and Carlton being
like
silly.
Devolved into the shenanigans. I think, yes, you're right about Perfect Strangers, but also I don't know that they knew what they had.
Oh no, of course
with
they
Perfect Strangers. You know what I mean?
More.
Like Perfect Strangers was able to become that and become the standard for what that like farcical 2-man nonsense looks like because they basically took a Neil Simon play and said, let's add British farce on top of it. And now and get these 2 like Yale trained, dramatic, amazing actors who are physical comedians and like already have stage combat in their wheelhouse. And let's shoot each episode like James Burrows style live, you know, and so all of that is what makes I think the Perfect Strangers episodes feel so special because it's like you're tuning in to watch a live performance.
Yeah, definitely. And Will Smith and Alfonso Ribeiro don't have all that, but they're still very good. But again, Perfect Strangers also, it doesn't have these casualties. It doesn't have some poor mom and sister and other sister that get nothing to do but walk in and go, duh, I'm dumb. I'll fall for whatever stupid lie you tell me, and then walk out, you know? Like, it doesn't
They have their own lives. They're not like they're the main characters of their own lives.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it doesn't have these characters that it came up with and then gives them nothing to do or dumb, sexist, you know, C stories. Like, it has the two girlfriends. They come in, they do their thing. I don't get the impression they were ever meant to be a huge part of it. And it just flows so much better.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so much for winning the lottery. What are we talking about next week?
We're just sticking with these blue-collar working bands tropes, Jay. We're going bowling.
Yeah, we're bowling.
Let's go bowling with The Flintstones, Season 2, Episode 24, Fred Strikes Out, Roseanne, Season 4, Episode 14, The Bowling Show, According to Jim, Season 1, Episode 8, The Turkey Bowl, and The Big Bang Theory, Season 3, Episode 19, The Wheaton Recurrence. All right, bowling's next week, and until then, we will consider this segment of the sitcom study concluded. Thank you for listening to the Sitcom Study. Tell us what you think or share your own TV tropes and topic ideas by sending a self-addressed stamped email to sitcomstudypodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you like the show, consider leaving a rating or review on your podcast app. It helps us boost those precious Nielsen ratings. The Sitcom Study is recorded in front of a live studio dog.